Hello, I'm Robert.
And I'm Evelyn.
And this is Talking About It.
Yes, it is. And we're recording this on Father's Day.
Yeehaw.
So happy Father's Day, Dad.
Thank you.
We weren't sure if we were actually going to be in the same place this weekend, so I gave you your Father's Day gift last week, just in case.
Yep.
Do you want to tell them what I got you? Do you not remember? You got a shirt from both me and Alex, so mine was the D&D shirt.
Okay, yes.
I got him a D&D shirt, but in the style of Van Gogh's Starry Night.
Yes.
So.
Very nice. Very nice. I also got a Pop.
Yes.
Funko Pop.
Yes, you did. That Mom found for you.
I know, and I was so shocked.
It was Snagglepuss. I had no idea there was a Snagglepuss one.
I know.
And you have a very interesting obsession with Snagglepuss.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
He loves Snagglepuss. And then it's not Hasbro. What's it called? What's the company called?
Which company?
That makes Snagglepuss.
Oh, that's Hanna-Barbera.
Hanna-Barbera. I knew it started with an H. When Hanna-Barbera did their kind of like modern, gritty takes on some of their like old characters, I had originally read like the Scooby-Doo and the Apocalypse one, but I hadn't read any of the others. But you had read the Snagglepuss one, and you were so into getting me and my brother to read it that you actually bought us the trade. And then I read it and I fell in love. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, and they, because what they did, and it was through DC that published it, what they did was they put him back in, like, they put it back during, like, the Red Scare, during the blacklisting of actors and so forth.
And made him kind of a Tennessee Williams type, which is really interesting.
Yeah, but I've always liked him, even when I was a kid, because he was the actor. He was the actor. Exit stage left. And in the Wacky Races, he teamed up with Huckleberry Hound.
Yes.
So.
Who's a friend of his in the book.
Yes.
All right. This is a Lord of the Ring podcast, right?
It can be.
All right. Well, that was that. I just wanted to bring up the Father's Day thing because I thought it was nice today. And then I know we haven't done the game yet. It's scheduling with the third person playing our game for our 3rd anniversary. That's almost 5 months ago now. Has been difficult, but we are working on it still. But we have something else to tease as well.
Yes. Tell us.
So, without spoiling too much, I personally am working on organizing things for when we read The Hobbit. I can't tell you too much because things are nowhere near finalized. However, 1, to give us a little extra time, and 2, to give us a little bit of a palate cleanser, we're going to do a 2-episode kind of mini thing to just kind of let us digest what happened in The Lord of the Rings, prepare ourselves for The Hobbit, and I think that'll be a lot of fun for you guys. So it'll be nice for me to have a little bit more time to try to organize things for The Hobbit, because theoretically cool things are going to happen with our reading of The Hobbit.
Yes.
If I can pull it off.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have anything?
No, I'm good. We can get on. Oh, I really wish I would have sat down and watched you read this chapter.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
So let's just get right into it. So it's called The Field of Cormallen, and the thing is, when we were preparing just to read like the chapter and get ready to record, we realized we weren't entirely sure if I made predictions, which I did. I listened back to I listened back to the episode and I did make predictions, which I'll talk about. But I'm still, like, it's been probably 2 weeks since we recorded that other one from recording this, that I'm still in shock. Like I'm still in shock. I'm still digesting it. I like, what else is there? And that's literally my thought through this chapter too, is like, wait, what? Because to me, at least with my physical copy of the book, it looks like I'm only halfway through.
Okay.
So it's like, what else could there? I guess I'm gonna find out. So, yeah. So my predictions. You let me have the gimme, which was that the chapter is going to be the big battle of the Western Lords and the armies of the enemy. We heard in the last chapter that there was a fatal sound from a Western Lord, and I predicted that, after a long-winded explanation I'm not going to do this time, that it would be to one of Elrond's sons. And then you also gave me, well, you basically told me it was a gimme. It was a complete prediction on my part, but you were just like, yeah, it's basically true. The tide will turn when the Nazgul leave to go, like, uh-oh, something's over there.
Is that how they talk?
In my mind, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the middle prediction, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, it kind of just picks up from where I had to, like, it took me a second to see where it picked up from. I realized after a couple, like, basically after two paragraphs, that it's basically picking up from the start of the battle at the end of book 5.
So, also, what's taking place, we have to rewind a little bit on the timeline, because what's about to happens about the same time as Frodo and Sam finally finish their mission.
Right, which I do get to in a moment.
Okay.
But before we get there, the chapter basically starts off again in the middle of battle, and those first paragraphs really focus on Aragorn and Gandalf.
Right.
Just kind of stone-faced, watching the battle and trying their hardest to maneuver their forces.
Right. So the chapter begins with talking about the sun gleaming red.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Tolkien has used red primarily for, evil. Or the foretelling of evil. So
in most cultures, a bright red sun is a symbol of, like, bad things.
Yeah. And so red has been ominous previously in the book, with the red eye of Sauron, the red arrow that tells of war and the coming of evil that was sent. Those are two of the biggest examples of that.
Yeah.
But it's his continuation of using those colors for the same thing. Now, also, they look to the north.
Yes.
Okay, so they look to the north, and something good is coming from the north, which we'll get in a second. But for Tolkien, the north, coming from the north, what's in the north is something that comes out of the north is good news.
Okay.
All right. Now, and
yeah, because the north usually symbolizes like hope.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tolkien would have known this because twice in the book of Job in the Old Testament, particularly in chapter 37, verse 22, it talks about out of the north comes golden splendor. And the reason I say he would know this he would know this deep down in his heart.
Isn't this one of the ones he translated?
Yes, this is one of the ones he translated for the Jerusalem Bible.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I recognize the book as one of the ones that he did.
And why are they happy about what's coming out of the north, Evelyn?
The eagles are coming! Which, when we last left off with Pippin, it blew my mind. First of all, it's like, the eagles are coming? And then you double bluffed me. I'm bringing this back, people. You double bluffed me being like, or is he just hallucinating it? Because that's what Bilbo had told them about the stories. And I got really in my head about, oh my god, he is hallucinating. But no, you double bluffed me and you did a good job. I'm going to give it to you. You really did double bluff me on that.
So the Eagles are coming. I want to talk about the Eagles a little bit.
Well, I want to talk about the Eagles too, actually.
Okay,
I prepared my own rabbit hole this time.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting, folks?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Celtic symbolism and the Gaelic symbolism of eagles that Tolkien would have known about. So, in Celtic and Gaelic legend, eagles are said to be the second oldest and wisest animals after the salmon. The salmon were created first, and they are the oldest and wisest, but the eagles were created second. And the eagles are actually considered to have a high connection with the creator, as the ancients kind of talked about, like, not necessarily like any omnipresent thing, but just like with the creation of the universe, that they are directly connected, which you will talk about either in this rabbit hole or you said you had a future rabbit hole.
Yes. It's during this.
Okay. So because we mentioned our rabbit holes to each other and we realized there were some similarities there. And then the eagle, obviously they're very noble of heart, very wise. And there was a lot of very specific lore with them, where the cry of an eagle meant it was the symbolic of significant events, such as the birth of a hero. And then if an eagle seemed to be watching sentry on like a rock, it meant enemies were approaching. But two eagles, which we'll kind of mention in a minute, two eagles was a sign of peace. There was also a lot of ancient burial grounds where just eagle bones have been found. Like, just burial sites of eagles, and historians have no idea why. They theorize it might be some religious thing, but we're really unsure why they have all of these burials for eagles. And then we have evidence that some ancient people would leave their dead unburied to be feasted on by birds, including eagles. And then, of course, parts of the eagles were considered medicinal, such as like their body fat. And then Highland chiefs were allowed to wear 3 eagle feathers as a sign of their rank.
Right.
And in general, they just have this this perspective as being...
And that is still...
It's still a thing, yeah.
It's still a thing in Scottish Highland.
Yeah. But they were always thought to be of, like, a higher perspective of life, which goes back to something my grandmother used to always tell me, which is one of the reasons I have an eagle tattoo myself, is fly like an eagle over the turkeys. Which just meant, like, fly higher than those that would try to keep you down. Yes. Like, don't let those people get to you. Right. I have a hard time doing that, but it's a good advice.
A hard time? I would say you're underplaying it. Okay. All right, so.
But yes, so they basically, that's the Celtic side of things. Now you talk about the Tolkien side of things.
Yeah, I got a couple places I'm going to go with this first. Okay. But so the eagles are coming. So the host of Mordor might not know what this sign meant, but it couldn't be good if there was support coming from the air.
Yes. I also kind of make a note that it's like they get some air support against the Nazgul.
So, so the Wind Lord, Geyer, is a direct descendant of the first eagle. Mm-hmm. From what I was reading about it earlier today, too, is that Geyer was a vassal of that first eagle, which meant he was alive in the first age.
Okay.
So Geyer means the Wind Lord, and his brother Landroven means broad wing.
Okay.
Geyer was the eagle used several times in our book, in our set of books, The Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Yeah, that name is the one that...
And
Gandalf and him have a good relationship.
Yeah. So first, Radagast sent... Radagast the Brown, the wizard, sent him to tell Gandalf news of the 9 riders.
Okay, question. Radagast is a real... I thought he was just a random addition in the Hobbit movies.
No.
He's an actual part of the wizards?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did they mention him in the book, or did I totally miss that? Or is this subtext, or from other stuff?
No, this is from... Radagast finds out what's going on, and he sends him a message.
Okay.
I don't remember what chapter. I can't go back.
Okay.
Look. But anyway.
I don't remember Radagast being mentioned, but okay.
So Radagast the Brown sends the Wing Lord to tell Gandalf news of the 9 riders. Mm-hmm. And also that Gollum had escaped.
Okay.
But Gandalf was not in Isengard. So... excuse me, my throat's just bothering me really bad. So Geyer went looking for him, and he found him and rescued him from Saruman's tower. Later on, Gadriel sent the Wing Lord to find Gandalf after the Battle of the Peak. Now, the Battle of the Peak is what Gandalf calls the battle with the Balrog.
Okay.
Right? So, Gadriel also sent him off to find Gandalf after the Battle of the Peak. Now, the Battle of the Peak is what Gandalf called his climactic battle with the Balrog up on the peak of the mountain called Silvertine. Gandalf pursued the Balrog from the deepest dungeons of Moria to Durin's tower, climbing through the whole endless stairs. And on the peak, they fought for 3 days and 2 nights. And according to the time scheme, that was the 23rd to the 25th of January. And during this battle, the tower was destroyed. The entrance to the stairs was blocked. And in the end, the Balrog was cast down and broke the mountainside as it fell. Gandalf ended up basically dying from this ordeal, but was later sent back to Middle-earth with even greater powers as Gandalf the White.
Okay.
All right?
So, question.
Yes.
Is the mountain... So, did they go down and then back up a mountain?
Yeah.
Or was it a mountain, like, in the depths?
No, it says they climbed back up.
Oh, so they climbed back up while fighting.
Right.
Okie dokie. Okay.
Right. And
I'm going to make sure I was getting that right.
And so now, Gandalf says, all right, one more time, please. Mm-hmm. Let's see what we can find.
That's later.
Yeah, but I know, I'm just, yeah.
Yeah.
And so these eagles are, they're an ancient race. Mm-hmm. They helped Gandalf in The Hobbit.
Right.
But that's not mentioned here. Mm-hmm. So this would actually be the fourth time the Eagles.
It's like that Star Wars quote, that incident in the trees with the orcs didn't count. We don't count that one.
But then all of a sudden they hear this roar and see this black crowd leaving the earth. And Gandalf's quote. No, I'm sorry.
Well, no. First, the Nazgul flee with the Eagles chasing after them.
Not yet.
No, yeah.
No, it's after they hear the shouts.
Well, yeah. There's the shouts. Then they flee. Then stuff goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hear the roar, which is basically Sauron dying. Mm-hmm. The black cloud leaves the earth. Tolkien says the realm of Sauron has ended. So the enemies are fleeing. Now, what's interesting is, okay.
So basically, I wrote this down completely different.
Okay.
So I have, like, the Nazgûl start to flee. They don't know why, but we know why. And the Western Lords, like, get filled with hope and renewal with their fighting. And then Gandalf says, "Stand, men of the West, stand and wait. This is the hour of doom." And that's when everything starts to just crumble. And that's when Gandalf declares the mission a success.
Well, but
and that's when the enemies start scattering.
The Nazgûl didn't really take off heading directly back until they heard the roar.
No, right. But it was the roar first, and then things started to crumble.
But then the black
plume was during the roar.
Yeah, and so what's interesting is this black cloud is coming up, and there's another place where Tolkien talks about. There's another place where it's mentioned in some of Tolkien's work, just barely mentioned, but that the image of bombing the fields during World War I is what he.
That would make sense based off of, like, the way he describes it. My note was the evil architecture crumbles, because I didn't know how else to describe it. But that's pretty much what is described, is just everything is just disappearing in these huge plumes of fire and blast and shadow coming from Mount Doom. And all of the enemies scatter except some of the men who have been just centuries of dedication to the Dark Lord. They kind of stay in battle to the end.
No, it's not because of the centuries of dedication to the Black Lord. These men have been fighting the Western men
for so long.
It didn't even...
Yeah, it wasn't even for the Lord. It's like they've just been fighting the Western men for so long. They're like, we're just going to go down fighting, because...
Right. And the black cloud starts to drift towards the fight.
Yes.
And then the wind cleans it away.
Yeah.
So now this is where we get into... So, the King of the Valar.
Yeah.
Okay, the King of the Valar is named Manwë. Mm-hmm. Now, Manwë, the winds, the airs, and the eagles were his vassals.
Okay.
So we're taking the major god, basically. Mm-hmm. Okay, the king of the gods, basically. So Manwë, which is the king of the Valors, which basically is king of the gods.
He's Zeus. He's Odin.
The head god. And the winds and the airs and the eagles are his vassals. So I tend to think here again of the eagles as angels.
Okay.
And they're coming from the north, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. And they also see the eagles coming, the Nazgûl leaving, and the others starting to leave. as a sign which means that the ring bearer has fulfilled his mission.
Yes, that's what Gandalf declares. Now, at this part, before we get into this next part, because I know what this next part is getting into, I wanted to mention here, so this is basically the end of the battle part of this chapter. I am honestly really surprised. I thought we were going to get more of the battle, I guess. I thought we were going to get a little bit more of a resolution about what was going on with Pippin. I thought we were going to see a little bit more of Legolas and Gimli with their little competition. And most importantly, who screamed in a fatal blow?
Sauron screams when the ring is thrown into...
Yeah, but no, before that, in the last chapter, I can even go back to my notes. In the last chapter, as they're making their way into the volcano, they hear what is described as a fatal scream from a Western lord.
I don't remember that at all.
That's why that was my prediction. Because let me see if I can get... So I'm on my notes. Okay, so I found it where I thought I saw it in the chapter of Mount Doom. I basically missed a word because I was just reading so fast at this point because I was in such shock about what was going on. So what I had read was the eye was not turned to them. It was gazing north to where the captains of the west stood at bay, and thither all its malice was now bent, as the power moved to strike its deadly blow. But Frodo at that dreadful glimpse fell as one stricken mortally. Now, when I first read that, I interpreted it that Frodo glimpsed one of the Western lords stricken mortally. Now I am rereading it and I realize, oh, no, it was Frodo that fell as is stricken mortally. So I just completely misinterpreted that entire part. You can see where I was confused.
No, I can't. I think we should just go back and erase that whole thing.
No, I'm going to keep it in because I'll admit when I was wrong. But it's like, that's just how one into the chapter was. And again, like those set of words to me, just I completely interpreted differently. So yeah, apparently no Western Lord fell. So I'm happy. I liked all of them. Anyway, so now we're at the part where you mentioned earlier with the eagles that Gandalf asked his friend one more ride. So, and I love his the eagle's reaction to it. I can't pronounce the name by looking at it, but his reaction was, "Friend, you can always get a ride from me." And it's like friendship. I love it.
But what's also interesting is I know the jokes. I know you even mentioned it about where the eagles. The eagles are the scouts in the sky. Mm-hmm. They've been running messages back and forth because they don't have walkie-talkies or scribing glasses or anything, and they're not using the stones to communicate with each other because Sauron can intercept that. Mm-hmm. The eagles are doing something.
Right, and we've talked about this before.
Right.
Where not only that, but now that I am very aware that Tolkien is against air combat, that also makes a lot of sense.
But also they're doing a very important thing.
Yes, yeah, they are in the background doing important stuff. We just don't see it.
Right. But they go and they find. So they get on the eagles. They go and find Frodo and Sam, who are just worn out.
They're so worn out that So it cuts to Sam and Frodo, and Frodo fully believes this is the end. He does not think that there's any escape because the lava is coming, but Sam convinces him to try. And so they do try. And then Sam says something that I don't know how I feel about it. He says, quote, "Now comes the story of Nine-Fingered Frodo and the Ring of Doom." I am in shock, because we will get to this when we get to the animated Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh, no, we're going to get into it later on.
Well, yeah, we'll get it later on today as well, because, that's the only thing that's truly the only thing I remember from the Lord of the Rings animated movie was the whole, song that they sing. It's like, Frodo of the Nine Ringers.
The Nine Ringers?
9 Ringers! And the Finger of Doom. I'm keeping that in. I don't care. I'm too tired. Okay, so... anyway... So it just blew my mind, that was... I thought
That's why I wish I was watching you when you read. I wanted you to see that, and just see your mouth. Oh my God.
That's exactly what happened. I read it. I'm not reading this. I had to read it, that sentence, 3 times, because I could not believe it. I thought it was just something... Because it was made in the late 70s, early 80s, the animated movie, and it was super cheesy and fun, and I just thought it was just Leonard Nimoy having a good time, but doesn't Leonard Nimoy sing it?
No.
Or does he sing the Hobbit one?
He sings the Hobbit one.
Oh, I thought he sang both for some reason. Anyway, so, but yeah, I thought it was just some fun, fresh, and funky beat that they just came up with to try to lighten up the story. I had no idea it was in the book, and my mind is freaking blown. And now, if it is not in the movie, I will be disappointed in the live action. But yeah, it was. I truly had to pause in that moment.
Okay, so. In the calendar of things, Frodo and Sam are lifted up by the eagles, and Sam thinks he's dreaming it.
Yeah, Frodo's completely unconscious at this time, and Sam is in and out of consciousness, and he thinks he's dreaming.
Okay, so it's March 25th. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go down one of my first rabbit holes.
This is your first rabbit hole?
No, my first rabbit hole for this. So we're recording 2 in a row. So earlier when I said we'll talk about it later today, you're not going to hear it for 2 more weeks. We're just recording it.
I count our eagle thing as a rabbit hole. That's what I meant.
Nope. This is rabbit hole.
Okay.
This is rabbit hole. So the 25th of March. Mm-hmm. Okay, the 25th of March is recognized as the day of the crucifixion.
Okay.
The 25th of March is recognized as the day when the angel visits Mary.
Okay.
And the 25th of March was considered the first day of the year in England until 1751.
I'm not going to ask why. I'll just accept it.
Because of those 2 dates. Because of the 2 reasons.
Okay. All right.
So, and also by the 25th of March, you can definitely tell that it's the sun that it's getting lighter.
Yeah. Okay.
Days are getting longer.
That makes sense.
So, that was the rabbit hole.
Why wouldn't they just start it at that day as March 1st and just rearrange the entire calendar to be on the 1st instead of the 25th?
Because the rest of the world. Well, okay. Why don't we change the beginning of the year to the New Year's Day for China, since they have more people than us?
No, that's not what I mean. I mean using that number on the Chinese calendar. That is day 1. Why wouldn't the English calendar be day 1 versus day 25?
Because the calendar was in existence 1,500 years before they just stopped making it the first day of the year. So,
but why did they choose the date, the 25th, instead of just saying this is day 1? That's what I don't get.
The 25th of March.
Or was it day 1 and now we just call it the 25th?
No, the 25th of March is exactly 9 months earlier from
December 25th.
December
Yes,
25th.
I get that.
Okay, so you have that.
Yes, I get that.
So and then.
But why not just say March 1st, December 1st? Make it the 1st instead of like 25.
Because those dates are already marked by the church. This calendar that they're using was put together by the early church.
Okay.
All right. So now we're talking centuries later.
Okay. So it was
England didn't exist when the calendar was made.
Okay. Okay, I'm getting it. I have more questions, but it's not related to Tolkien, so I'm not going to ask those questions. Continue.
So then, when they get there and they're taken care of a little bit, everybody sings, "Long live the hobbits! Praise them with great praise."
Oh, you missed some stuff. Because I really took notice of the thing right before that.
Okay.
So, first of all, Sam just wakes up. Sam wakes up and is so confused.
They're giving praise when they land.
Yeah, they're giving praise when they land, but they're not awake for that.
Doesn't matter if they're awake.
I thought you were talking about something else. I'm sorry. No. I thought you were talking about later.
No. When they land, they start singing praises.
Mm-hmm.
Long live the hobbits, praise them with great praise.
Yeah.
And this is where I briefly wrote down, and we'll go down this rabbit hole later. Frodo is the Messiah figure. Sam is one of the evangelists, i.e. writers of the Gospels. But we'll go on.
We'll go on that tangent later. But yeah, so they praise them, but they're not awake for this to happen. So Sam finally wakes up. And I know you were talking about the 25th because that is now. So he wakes up and he's just like, where am I?
Right.
When is this? How long have I been asleep? And Gandalf says it's the 14th day of the new year. And he gives the Shire time as well, but to give him like an idea. But he's like, yeah, the 25th. It's our new year because that's when evil was defeated. So all that fun stuff. So I get where you're coming with that. But yeah, so he was asleep for 2 weeks. And he's like, Gandalf asks him how he's feeling, and he's like, I'm actually feeling really good, but I'm really worried about Frodo. But then Frodo's there as well.
Frodo's already better than him.
Yeah, Frodo's already better than him. And honestly, I can only imagine because he's like finally gone with like the influence of the ring.
Right. Plus, you have to remember he had some
magic from the ring as well.
Well, no, but he also had some magical healing from when he was stabbed.
Right, yeah. He had magical healing from that. The ring kind of gave him like some youthfulness as well. So like that kind of stayed, but the corrupting influence is gone. He kind of mentions that he woke up like a couple days prior. And
then one of the minstrels of Gondor.
Not yet. I still have things. So they also. This to me, this is important. So Gandalf says, all right, now that you guys are awake, we're going to go bring you to the king. The king's been waiting for you. And Sam's like, what? What do you mean? And then, in very Sam fashion, he's like, what do I wear? And Gandalf says something that I thought was really, really interesting. He's like, there's not going to be any silk or finery for you guys right now. You guys are going to wear your adventuring clothes because those are the clothes that you wore when you saved all of us. And that's what you deserve to be heralded in. So, but before they do leave to go do that, Gandalf shows that he saved their gifts from Galadriel as well.
Yes.
Which I thought was very important.
Yes.
Because the light stayed. Metaphors. Okay. And then they do take a quick bath, so they're not totally gross, but they put on their outfits back on, and as they're walking to go meet this king, there are armored guards in finery. And they just immediately, upon seeing them, just kneel and start hailing, praise the hobbits, praise the ring bearers. And something I thought was interesting is that they're both called the ring bearers. And I think that is very fitting for both of them. And then they come to this king, and Frodo knows what's going on, but Sam's like, Strider, is that you? And Aragorn makes the jokes. He's like, we've come a long way from Bree when you weren't sure about me, right? And they kind of have a giggle, which I thought was... I think it's a cute, light moment in all of this. Because then he immediately bows to them and hails them as well. And at this point in my mind, I'm like, where's Merry and Pippin? But then I got completely thrown off of that sidetrack because a minstrel comes out. Now you may go.
So the minstrel comes out, and he begins to sing. When Bilbo, and this is not in the book, folks. This is not in the book. This is from the animated movie in 1980. Mm-hmm. Called The Return of the King. Mm-hmm. So, when Bilbo found that shining ring in Gollum's Cave of Gloom, he never thought that it would turn into the Ring of Doom. The dragon Smaug, the spiders too, the goblins, the elf king, they came to know the power of the hobbit and his ring. Frodo of the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom. It started with a hobbit in Gollum's Cave of Gloom. Now, and it goes on and on.
Right. But what's really interesting is because in the book, like, they say Frodo of the Nine Ringer... Oh my gosh. Frodo of the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom. And Sam literally starts crying from joy. Yes. Because it's like... Okay, so like his first joy is that... Because he's been talking about, like, what if songs are written about us and about our heroism and our journey? That would just make my life complete. So that's already happening. And then the minstrel uses Sam's own freaking words about Frodo and the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom. And he's like, they used my words. My life is complete. Like, he's weeping with joy. And so finally, Gandalf lets them go take a real bath and some fresh clothes. And this I also thought was really important because while they're getting them kind of like in their original finery at the beginning of their adventure with like the mithril armor, and he hands Frodo his sword. And Frodo says he never wants to hold a sword again. And Gandalf kind of says, you may want to in this moment, but he absolutely refuses, and he gives Sting to Sam. And Sam, like, wants to refuse as well, but Frodo's like, no, it's yours now. And I just thought that was a really nice moment. And then, as they're going back to, like, the feast, Sam sees some kids and is like, why the heck are some kids here? And it's Merry and Pippin.
No, 4 of them are reunited.
They're reunited, but I just think it's so funny.
Reunited because it feels so good. Go ahead.
But yeah, I thought it was so funny that this entire book series that have been comparing hobbits to kids, and they're like, no, we're full-size men, and Sam even does it as well. But it's partially because, like, they notice
they're taller.
They're taller, exactly. They notice they're a little bit taller, and Sam's like, are you guys taller or am I shorter? And, which is just, he's like, or am I a dwarf, is what he actually says, which is really funny.
You ain't a dwarf.
Yeah, Gimli's like, you're not a dwarf. And then, so, like, Merry and Pippin, they're like, hey, we're knights now. Cool, right? And then they explain about how they grew, and they talk about the Ents, and Sam has nothing but confusion for, like, the
whole... What the heck's an Ent?
Yeah, he's like, I don't know what you're saying, but it sounds awesome. And that's when I thought I would love nothing more than a 2-hour movie of Sam and Treebeard chatting away. I think that would be hilarious. Sam would just be there, just like head in his hands like a little kid, eyes wide, just listening to Treebeard and asking him questions. I can see him spending like a couple years with him, just asking him questions and listening. I think they'd get along really well, personally.
So you know what I find interesting about the recording for this chapter? It's a recording about a chapter about the end of chaos. And this is probably the most chaotic chapter we've ever recorded about.
True. Yeah. There's a lot happening.
Yeah. Well, but not just here in the book. There's a whole lot more happening here between us.
Yeah, we keep going down some rabbit holes ourselves.
And bouncing off the walls.
And then we finally... And so Pippin is the one that actually suggests, like, we need to do what Bilbo did and write everything down so that people can remember. And then Gandalf's like, oh yeah, Pippin, I should resolve that. Which, Tolkien. I appreciate that you did, like, give us an explanation and you did fill in those gaps. I wanted to see it. Because he talks about how it's like, yeah, Pippin went down, Gimli found him, got him to safety. It's like, I wanted to see it! I would have loved to see more of that battle. I do feel that, while I understand this is already a very long chapter and a very long book itself, I kind of wanted to see a little bit more of the battle, you know?
Okay.
I felt of that. Especially with the chapter title, I was expecting, like, a majority of this chapter to be the battle. But anyway, Gandalf...
There was no battle. There was no real battle.
No, yeah, there was no real battle. Yeah, there was a light fighting, but everything happened all at once.
Right.
But, yeah, so Gandalf is just like... We all need to go to bed now. Like, we need some rest. Some real rest.
I've been Robert.
That's not the end!
I know.
So Legolas agrees and kind of starts singing, and then they went to bed, and then I love that they say they woke up in hope and peace.
Yes.
And towards the end of this chapter, just like I was thinking, is the characters and I were both thinking, what's next? Because for me, I can physically see there's more into the book. While the characters are like, yeah, we're just kind of gonna hang around, and then...
Not the characters. The hobbits.
The hobbits. Well, the hobbits and, like, listen, the whole fellowship is just kind of like...
No, they're not, because Aragorn knows what he has to go do next.
Yes, but they're putting it off slightly. They're getting ready for him to enter Gondor, and that's where the chapter ends.
Thank God.
I felt there was a lot of important stuff here, okay?
So, I've been Robert.
Predictions. You're so ready to go. And we're backlogging another episode after this, so we'll see how that goes, folks. Okay, so I did write predictions, because, like I said, we're doing 2-chapter recordings, so I wrote down my predictions before I started the next book. So, the predictions were the Steward and the King. And... while I now know my predictions aren't exactly right for the most part, I felt like this was, again, one of the easier ones to come up with predictions. I felt like I could predict something, even if it wasn't correct. So my predictions was, first, Faramir was gonna gladly give up stewardship. Like, immediately be like, take it, please. Though I also predict... Actually, all 3 of my predictions are with Faramir. My second prediction is he would have to give Gondor some convincing to accept Aragorn as king. And then my other prediction is that with all of his injuries, he's going to be permanently crippled in some way. Like maybe an arm is paralyzed and won't work, or something like that is kind of my thought process from like how bad his injuries were. Like he would have a permanent mark of his heroism. You know?
Okay.
Now I think we're done. Did you have anything else to add before you say it again?
I've been Robert.
And I have finally been Evelyn.
And you have been listening to a very chaotic episode of We're Talking About. No, I even got that wrong. I'm so tired.
This is Talking About It. See you in 2 weeks.